The information's out, folks. The new 6.7 Cummins. I'll tell you what, I better go ahead and make this video before it completely becomes irrelevant and the truck shows up and we can visually see and drive the vehicle with all the concerns and speculations right in front of us to see if they're actually worthy of talking about or if they are something that's going to kick ass. But basically, we don't got a lot of time. We don't even have enough time to get a glass right now. We're in the shop, so it doesn't really count. I don't need to get a cup. The rules don't apply down here. Better get a swig before I have this rant coming at you for the new 6.7 Cummins. I guess we'll start off right off the bat. Speculations were they going to run another 6.7 or a variant of it, or were they going to change? Were they going to up the cubic inch in order to keep up with the horsepower that other brands are completely destroying the market with? That was the biggest question, honestly. The transmission, it was up and down on what if we're going to get more gears, we're going to keep the IS in, we're going to get a different version of that 6-speed, 8-speed, 10-speed. What's it going to be? Well, the info's out. It's another 6.7. They apparently do have a 7.2 Cummins that is ready to be dropped into any pickup that I guess picks up the contract. I don't know if Dodge will keep it. That's speculation. But why didn't they go with the 7.2 and why would they go with the 7.2? Well, my insider sources via somebody that I know down in Texas, he's stating that the only reason that they would go to a 7.2 liter Cummins, which they already have the engine ready to go, is so they could meet or exceed different levels of emission standards and or not have to meet certain areas to comply with because they have more cubic inches to displace. So it puts you in a different category. Not because they want to be competitive with Ford and actually have some more horsepower. Yeah, I know. These new trucks, I will start off the day and say they're great. They got way more horsepower than what they used to have. But that's how evolution works. But I do have a list of stuff that we're going to go into and some of my concerns that we're going to talk about with the new 6.7 and the new transmission that Dodge is going to be putting in it. But we want to rewind the clocks a little bit for anybody that's not in the area of it. I'll start off by saying my name is Samson Andrew. This is V-Belt and Son. Welcome to the channel. And I've been through a couple of these Dodge trucks. I believe I'll save as many of these old tractor trucks as I can find. Well, I call it a tractor truck because it's got a little tractor engine in this bad boy. 1996 12-valve Cummins. And for some reason, Dodge has been doing this for the longest time. They have something that has the most traction possible and the coolest idea to put an old tractor straight six in one of these things. But what do? They leave us with a bunch to be desired and not have a good transmission to go behind it. Some people are grandpas. Some people like to relax. They like the automatic lifestyle. But what do? They ran the same variant of a transmission from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they put an overdrive on it and put it behind the Cummins. Got a 4-speed automatic back in the day. First gear didn't lock up. Second gear didn't lock up. Third gear didn't lock up. Fourth gear, high gear, locked up. Or you could hit a button on the dash and that would drop third gear into your high hole and then it would lock third gear. What's the deal with that? We bought a power plant engine tractor truck. We want this thing to pull. All it's going to do is slip on the converter for the first 30, 40 freaking mile an hour before it locks up. That's how you burn stuff up, which they did. They burned up a lot of these automatic transmissions. Although if you do spend a couple grand on it or more, you can make that transmission pretty tight. But at the same time, you still don't have first gear lockup, second gear. I mean, you can put a switch in your wiring harness to do some stuff. But that's back in the 90s, early 2000s, the same kind of deal. Or you can just be a man and get a stick shift, which we can't get that anymore when we order a new truck. They got rid of that in 2019. They said, nope, nobody's ordering these anymore. Why aren't they ordering them anymore? Because they started derating the stick shifts because, although I do love a G56 6-speed manual transmission, they didn't have enough horsepower to be competitive with the automatic. They ain't going to go buy a brand new truck and have a derated manual transmission truck when you're dishing out more usable horsepower and paper horsepower with the automatic. Just go with that thing. So pretty soon sales drop off with the stick. Let's go ahead and not make them anymore. What a bummer that is. Now up until recently, 2022, with my new 5500, I hadn't really towed on a regular basis with an automatic. And this is what's going to bring me to my biggest concern, I think there is, with the current 6-speed automatics from Dodge. And we'll see what the new one has to offer. The paperwork I show doesn't give this information. But we're still dealing with the same thing. First gear does not lock up. First gear didn't lock up back then. Don't worry, I put a 5-speed in this thing, so first gear locks up good on this tow rig now. But the new current 6.7 with a 6-speed automatic is the same thing from early 2010 or whatever when they put the 6.7 with an ISN. We don't got first gear lockup. Ford with their 10-speed, that thing locks up in first gear. And mind you, that first gear is an absolute dog crawl because it's got 9 more gears on top of that. It can start off nice and low, and it's still got a tall gear at the end, even if you're running a low ratio. So that being said, I got some concerns with the new info that I've been given via, where did it go on here? I better find it real quick. Got to look up the Cummins information on Facebook. I found a post that's given this info. It did surface about a week ago. But we got some information to disclose. We did get an upgrade on the transmission as far as I'm concerned. But I'll tell you what, even back in the day, if you took a 12 valve and you transplanted that into F350, first-hand witness this, old 6-liter truck, you blow the engine up, the transmission's still good, the truck's still good. Go ahead and put a 12 valve in that baby with the correct wiring and tones and all that stuff. I've never driven a 12 valve with an automatic that I actually enjoyed until I drove a 12 valve swap F350. Because the automatic transmission knew what to do. It let that engine do what it needed. And up until this day, they still haven't really gotten it figured out when it comes down to Cummins in a transmission. Unless it's a manual transmission, then the guy running the steering wheel can run the stick shift too that goes to the transmission, and he gets the best of both worlds. He gets to do what his truck needs to do, and he's not worried about it. But let's go over the new information on the 6.7 and what Ram's going to have offered in 2025. Now, mind you, I wanted to order one of these bad boys. Either get rid of my 5500 and get a new 35, get rid of my old 35, get a new one, vice versa. But I don't know. Let's go over this information right here because the new 6.7 Cummins. I'll read you the information straight off of Facebook. 7.2 was a rumor, while the chatter of the 7.2 liter option is confirmed it's a 6.7, like I already told you. What they did in 2019 when they went to the new body-ish style, which by the way, they didn't change the body style really much at all in 2025. They went ahead and put, instead of a solid lifter, they went with a roller rocker, like an old school kind of thing, which is, it's proven to not be that good. You get a lifter tick. If you don't run the correct oil in it, you can't just run the regular stuff from back in the day. You end up with a lifter tick, and a lot of people are ended up, if you got the money, they're just swapping out and going back to the solid lifters, getting rid of the hydraulic lifters. But they're staying with it in 2025. Still going with a roller rocker lifter hydraulic unit, which makes it nice because you don't have to adjust the valves, I suppose. Makes it quicker for assembly. One less thing to worry about. It's going to have glow plugs instead of a grid heater. Turns out the grid heater on the 6.7 turned out to be like the worst design ever because it was worse than the Killer Dalpin with the stud that goes through the intake plenum. Because that thing breaks the head off of it, you got a nut rolling down your number 6 cylinder. For whatever reason, it decides to go for number 6. Gravity, I don't know. It starts cooking your bolt or nut or whatever, and it ruins your engine because you can't put a bolt head or a nut inside the cylinder. What else we got here? It's going to improve the airflow by not having the grid heater, which Banks and everybody else has been deleting the grid heater for a long time, which proved to be something to save your engine because the Killer Dow nut ain't there no more. But this also eliminates issues from the grid heater thing. Oh, what did the guy on the camera just say? Anyway, skip that one. External injectors. I'll put a photo up of this engine. It looks weird. It looks like something that's supposed to be in a car. I don't know. But the benefits, no need to remove the valve cover, making it much easier to service. We're going to have a new turbo on it. Another VGT. which is fine. VGT, somehow they put emissions on these things and they put the variable geometry turbo on it so that it could close off the exhaust so it redirects it back through the engine, which subsequently made it an exhaust brake when you needed it and proved to be the best exhaust brake on the market. i.e. why a lot of people still run the Cummins. So we still got the VGT, just a 10 blade, whatever that means. And now we're going to have a pump that resembles the CP4. If you don't know what the CP4 is, it's not CP3. CP3 they've been running for a long time on the 6.7 and 5.9. CP3's been rocking and rolling good. High pressure fuel pump. Idles. PSI of 7,000 standard somewhere in there and upwards of 30,000 at peak. But we're decided we're going to go with a CP4 again, that the cam turns sideways in it and it takes metal and puts it through your whole fuel system. Well, we're going to go back to something that resembles that. Not really sure why, because they went to a CP4 to get more pressure so they had more horsepower and burn better, and then that started failing, so they went back to the CP3 and they're still making the same horsepower. Go figure. What else we got here? Let's hope the Cummins engineers have addressed the prior reliability concerns of the CP4. Transitioning from a compacted graphite iron to traditional gray iron. Going back to the old block. Makes sense. What else we need on here? Exhaust and transmission improvements. Electric DPF heater designed to heat up, filter faster, improve efficiency. Transmission, this is probably the biggest news. Sorry about that. Neighbor Austin came over. It is my wife's birthday today. So say happy birthday to Taylor. That would be awesome. But let's go ahead and talk about the transmission a little bit more. The ZF transmission. Apparently, this is a transmission already used in Kenworth trucks and Packard trucks. Something to note right here. I don't know. I haven't driven a 8-speed ZF transmission Kenworth before. I don't know if it's got first gear lockup. I'm sure that it does. I don't know why ISA didn't have that, but that would be a major win if first gear locked up. It might rule out a lot of, personally, I wouldn't mind changing brands to get away with the unlocked first gear for a dedicated tow rig. It just doesn't make sense. If with a Dodge, you got to go into 4 low in some situations, and then 4 low still won't lock up your first or second. Get out of here. It won't lock up your first or second gear. It'll wait till 3rd gear before it gives you lockup. So you're still burning on the torque converter. In a lot of cases, these trucks are rated to tow 35,000 pounds. So you're nursing a big old hill and you don't have first gear lockup. You're just burning on that converter, heating your transmission up. Not ideal. So 8-speed automatic. Still not a 10. Maybe a 10's not completely needed because apparently 8-speed's good in a Kenworth. Also, Ford is making 500 horsepower at 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. And they're still maintaining a decent fuel mileage. The only thing I can assume is they are turning diesel fuel into nitrous through the Power Stroke engine. They're doing something to just absolutely destroy everybody on horsepower. Doesn't even make any sense. So what's Dodge do? The Ram Cummins situation. Still going to hold a 6.7 that doesn't have the horsepower. We're going to go back to a CP4. And we're going to go from 420 horsepower, high output, to 420 horsepower and 1,075 torque. That's still pretty good. Honestly, that's not bad. I've driven that truck. It's pretty good. Towed with it. It's real good. But they're simply going to increase the horsepower by 10. So it's 430 and the same 1075 on the torque. Was it 2 years now? They've been running 500 horsepower with Ford. I don't know how long term that is. Seems like a lot of people that get the high output are just towing their trash can in the mailbox. It doesn't make any sense. Or they're putting, 22s on it. 24s. I don't know. Anyway, sidetracked it. Sounds like Cummins is playing it safe while testing this new platform. Future power increases may come through software updates once the reliability of the new powertrain is confirmed. So I will give them credit for that. With evolution comes concerns. One thing that you might think you're making better might be one step backwards. For example, when they switched from a P pump to a VP, man, there was some growing pains with that. Ultimately, a lot of people favored the VP once you realize you had to have good fuel pressure all the time to it. And same thing when they went to the common rail injection system. You got to have clean fuel. You couldn't run motor oil with sawdust in it like you could with this truck. What the problem is the last generation didn't have those concerns because it wasn't a problem. And step into a new evolved system, you're trying to get more horsepower out of it, you're changing it up, trying to meet emissions, trying to do this, trying to meet what the customer wants. And you simply don't know until you start running them, I suppose. But now, companies can be running tests on these trucks for a couple years in advance, like they should, before they start pumping millions of these things out into the world. But I'll say this right now, that baby better have first gear lockup with the automatic, since we don't have the stick shift anymore, which is an absolute drag. And I didn't realize how much of it a drag was until I've spent the last 2 years, daily towing with an automatic, and go back to the stick shift and go, damn. It's just so much more user-friendly in these mountains, towing heavy. You could just pick a gear, stay in it, pull the grade. No fumbling, trying to get it revved to the moon so it can lock up second gear, and hopefully it'll hold. But there's another good thing. There's no standard output. All of them are going to be bad dogs. All of them are going to have horsepower. But that's leaving me to where I am at the crossroads, because I've already talked with my dealer, Peterson, Evan, and I told him that I was interested in either maybe trading in my 5500, which has got 14,000 miles on it, or I'm going to sell it and maybe get a new 3500 from him. But we didn't know if it was going to 8-speed ISN, 8-speed ZF, if it was going to be a 6.7 or a 9.2. We didn't know. And he didn't have any of the information. I was trying to get my foot in the door to see a early dealer showcase of the new truck. The body style hasn't changed enough to concern me. The engine hasn't evolved enough to really concern me. Yeah, it's got some features on it that might make maintenance on a higher level a little bit better. They went back to a CP4 variant. I'm not interested in CP4 pretty much on anything as far as I'm concerned. And it's going to shock you a lot to hear what I'm about to say next, because I honestly think, as far as it goes, and Apex Trucking is going to kick my ass for waiting this long, I guess, but I am about 90% sure that in 2025, I'm going to either buy a 22 plus or order a brand new one, F450, and sell my 5500. We're gonna change it up. We've been left with so much to desire for the longest time. And honestly, why do I like Dodge? Why have I been so hung up on them this whole time? Duke's a hazard. The General Lee, Dodge. I got a Charger, I got a Challenger, I got all the diesel options of it. We got to check those boxes, the child of the options. But it's time to apparently be an adult, and we got to go get a Ford, because Dodge didn't change enough and evolve enough. We'll wait till the 7.2 comes out, but it hurts my feelings that they didn't go for a 7.2 immediately to chase the horsepower goals that everybody else is doing and better fuel efficiency or whatever it was. They're strictly going to go to a 7.2 allegedly to meet standards of emissions. On Dodge, Ram, wait, that's the same one, Ram, Ford, Chev, whatever's else out there. Why don't I go to a semi? Because I want to have a 4-door. If I take the trailer off my truck, I can go drive my truck with the family to the ocean. I can go wherever I want with the family with a conventional pickup, and I don't have to pay, extreme insurance and everything on it. I don't have a bumpy ride. I don't have a sleeper. It's so much nicer just to have a pickup. I don't need a semi. The pickup does the job. Okay, we're driving my 22 5500 right now. This is a truck that I wanted for a long time. And I'd say for the most part, it didn't necessarily disappoint me. But there's a couple of things that I don't know if the new truck, the new Dodge is going to offer, the new Ram. But I will say, going from a 3rd gen to a 4th gen to a 5th gen, there's one thing that I really like that they went back to, because the 4-chin for the climate control was a button up and down, and that was annoying. So they went back to a twist knob so you could rapid fire, get your climates up where you want it or down where you need it. And that's a big upgrade. But the biggest complaint I would say that I have, and I know Ford doesn't have this problem, is the shifter. I do not have the gear selector on my shifter for the manual override to, you know, hold a gear or up gear, downshift, whatever. It's over here on the steering wheel. 4-chins used to be over there, and it's so convenient because you can just ride your right hand right here and just hang out and shift when you wanted to. When you really needed to stretch gears towing up a big hill, or make sure you downshifted ahead of time. But now if you're in the corner trying to downshift, it's kind of like a Easter egg hunt trying to find that thing when you're speed spinning the wheel. So that's kind of, I don't like that they did that. So that is one thing I really wish on the new trucks they fix, is go back to having the gear select over here. But other than that, we'll see. I'm going to end this video off with the idea that I've already driven a F450 pulling 35,000 pounds, and I was very, very impressed. There's a lot more going on inside the cab of those trucks. There's a lot more gauges, and coming from the standpoint of old trucks that you have to rely on those gauges, I think it's kind of nice that they have that option for some of those gauges. I don't know if you would even really care about it, other than make sure it's got oil pressure, not overheating, because the computer controls all the other junk. But I have already spoken with my dealer about a new 3500 to see what the time frame kind of deal is and how much one of those would cost, and they haven't gotten any on the lot yet. So I'm not saying I'm not buying one, but I've definitely got some major concerns that real world tests are going to have to take over and see how they perform, because they did a lot of going forward and a lot of going backwards. But at the end of the day, to only gain a couple horsepower after all those changes just doesn't really add up when the next competitor has got the same displacement, just in a different format, a V8, and they're converting diesel into nitrous because the horsepower is just so much higher. And another thing too, I will end the video saying this: there is an F450 towing video coming very soon, and I will assure you that I always thought, because these 6.7s were a smaller displacement, I thought they needed the higher RPM to chase the horsepower to pull these kind of weights and just to get that horsepower numbers they do. Not with the Ford. That thing behaved like an old school freaking diesel. Low end power. It was pulling good at 2,000 RPM. If it downshifted, it went to 2,300. I couldn't believe it. So look forward to that video. If I missed anything, you need something to add into this video, comment it down below. I know there's going to be some big controversial moments on here, some of the stuff I've said, but you got to understand, I've been driving Dodges religiously forever. That's all I've had. Mopar, no car kind of deal. Cummins, let's get it. But the fact that I'm willing to change is saying something. If you're losing your diehards, man, step something up. Give Ford a call and see what the hell they're doing better to get that horsepower. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Comment something nice below. See ya.